They knew what they're paying for. They knew about the textbooks. They knew about the school books. I know because I brought that forward as well for the past 8 years in parliaments everywhere. And they turned a blind eye. And we cannot afford to turn a blind eye again. This has cost too many lives here. Family members, our children, our sisters, our mothers and fathers and grandparents, they paid in their lives for turning a blind eye on that. We have to cut it now, and we have to face the reality and to make a serious change there.
We heard so many harrowing stories from hostages who were released from captivity. One of the many that stands out is that one of the abductors, somebody who was guarding, for want of a better word, one of the hostages, was an UNRWA teacher. Did that shock you? How do you reconcile that?
So it didn't shock me. As I said before, the people who work for UNRWA, most of them are Hamas activists. If they're not, they're usually family members of Hamas activists. So how can that shock anyone? I mean, in Israel, since I think it was 2005, we have reported that the head of the Union of UNRWA Schools Teachers was Hamas spokesperson. Literally. And they turned a blind eye until 2015 when they fired him. That took more than 10 years. So if that happened, I'm not surprised about that. There has to be a major reform there. We cannot afford to turn a blind eye. The international community cannot turn a blind eye because, as my friend said, this is not an Israeli-Palestinian war. This is the first days of the war against Iran, and this is the war against radical Islam, and it's knocking on the doors of almost every Western state that shared our values of freedom, liberty, equality. This is a war on humanity and on our identity.
There were two nations that you mentioned earlier that I want to pick up on, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. You were talking in the context of education. What kind of role do you see Riyadh and Abu Dhabi having potentially in changing mindsets, potentially in the day after? What kind of role could they have?
I think they have to be involved. I spoke about it since the first week of the war. I think as much as we want the normalization, it sits on the security needs, the mutual needs of the region against Iran, which is a corrupt radical Islam who is trying to destroy anyone in their way of literally world dominancy. Okay, that's what they're doing. And so if we have that mutual agenda and if we want to reinforce each other, security and military-wise, they have to come and take a stand on the Palestinians and especially the Gaza issue as well. I think they can be partners to that, and we have to research and see how we can start cooperating on that.